His voice was a steady, deep baritone, utterly devoid of aggression, yet it commanded the room with an invisible weight. In its presence, Trevor's snide remarks seemed like the yapping of a petulant child. From my vantage point, the confrontation was like watching a switchblade plunge into the ocean. Not even a ripple disturbed the surface. A few colleagues, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, started to intervene, steering the conversation towards safer waters. Their laughter a bit too loud as they tried to paper over the crack in the evening's facade. The raucous music swelled again, and though I was shaking hands with my department head, Leo, my own hand remained firmly clasped in his. At that moment, a certainty settled over me, clearer than it had ever been before. This was the man I loved. I was aware of the lifestyle department's reputation, their collective thrill at latching onto certain buzzwords, but their condescension only strengthened my resolve. I would stand with Leo in front of all of them without apology. There was nothing shameful about his profession or about the man himself. Where they saw someone to belittle, I saw someone to be proud of. The conversation had soured beyond saving. Trevor retreated to his circle of subordinates. Their makeup so perfectly blended they looked like airbrushed avatars, and resumed his glib banter. I led Leo to a different couch, making introductions to my own team, establishing a polite but firm boundary between our groups. But some people, it seemed, were just determined to be malicious. I didn't register the new melody at first, too engrossed in conversation. But then the two co-workers chatting with us stiffened, their expressions souring as they glanced toward the large screen displaying the song lyrics. I followed their gaze and saw it. One of Trevor's direct reports, a woman named Jessica, was perched on a stool on the room's small stage. She had unearthed some god-awful novelty country song and was now belting it out with a smug, theatrical flair. The lyrics scrolled across the screen, a crude parody about quack doctors and their fake remedies, with lines about snake oil and sugar pills. A chorus of snickers rose from her corner of the room, punctuated by whoops of encouragement. Leo, I realized, had noticed it long before I did, but his face was a placid mask, his posture relaxed as if he heard nothing at all. I fought down a surge of anger and asked a junior or next to me if she knew what the hell this was. She snapped out of her daze, darted a nervous look at Leo, and whispered that it was some viral song from a few years back, notoriously tacky but popular for its shock value. She added that singing it here now was more than a little pointed. I took a deep, steadying breath, trying to let it go, to not give them the satisfaction of a reaction over a stupid song. But when Jessica reached the final, sneering chorus about sending the charlatans packing, I couldn't hold back any longer. I shot to my feet so fast that even Leo couldn't stop me. Jessica seemed startled by my sudden loss of composure, but a defiant smirk quickly replaced her surprise. An expression that dared me to do something, banking on the fact that I wouldn't get physical with a woman. I had no intention of doing so. My hand went to the power strip behind the sound system, and with one sharp tug, I plunged the room into a shocking silence. Every head turned toward me. Seizing the moment, I snatched the microphone from her hand, the feedback screeching through the suddenly quiet space. I asked her coolly if she was done with her performance, and when she just gaped at me, I told her to get off the stage because I had a few words to say. I turned to face the stunned crowd. My voice, amplified and slightly distorted, filled every corner of the lounge. I could feel my own heart hammering against my ribs, its frantic rhythm seemingly broadcast for all to hear. I knew, even as the words formed, that this would be the talk of the office tomorrow. I didn't care. I stated plainly that we should drop the pretense. I invited anyone, from the lifestyle department or any other, who had a problem with me or with Leo, to voice it right then and there. I encouraged them to speak up so we could clear the air and move on. The room remained utterly silent. Fine, I said, then I would speak. I pointed directly at Jessica and her snickering colleagues. I demanded to know what problem she had with holistic medicine. I told her I didn't care what viral trash she enjoyed in her own time, but singing it in my partner's presence required an explanation. She stammered, speechless, and as Trevor started to rise, I rounded on him. I challenged his earlier comments, questioning his expertise. I asked how many clinics he'd visited, how many case studies he'd reviewed, whether his knowledge came from medical journals or clinical practice. When he had no answer, I pointed to Leo. I asked if he knew how many patients Leo had helped, how he carried an emergency kit of supplies and needles everywhere he went, how he was the only one brave enough to rush to the aid of a stranger having a seizure at the farmer's market when everyone else was afraid to get involved. My voice rose with indignation. I asked Trevor where he got the audacity to spout such ignorant nonsense. I declared that both conventional and alternative medicine aimed to heal, and that one didn't deserve respect while the other deserved contempt. I acknowledged their chic, modern sensibilities might make them dismissive of older traditions, but I finished by asking if his mother had ever taught him that respect was a prerequisite for freedom of speech. Let me tell you, there is a singular, heady rush that comes from winning an argument with a microphone. Your voice is the only one that matters. A thunderous, undeniable presence that drowns out any attempt at rebuttal. It was glorious. There was just one problem. After the triumphant takedown, I had no idea how to gracefully exit the stage. Daniel, his voice, calm and steady, cut through my adrenaline haze. He was standing just below the stage, his hand outstretched, a look of fond exasperation on his face, like a parent dealing with an unruly child. He told me to come down, that I'd made my point. I took the lifeline he offered, tossed the microphone onto a chair with a final, dismissive sniff, and took his hand. Just then, the door swung open and a server peered in, asking if everything was all right. All eyes were on us. Daniel calmly explained that he'd pressed the service button. He ordered a round of the most expensive bourbon the bar carried, then turned back to the room, his arm now around me. He apologized for my temper, explaining that I was young and passionate. He said the drinks were on him, a gesture of goodwill, and asked for their understanding. A chorus of relieved murmurs filled the room, everyone eager to smooth things over. In the midst of the newfound harmony, I heard Trevor mutter to his friends just loud enough for me to hear, something about a beat-up old hybrid and putting on airs. Before I could lunge, Daniel's arm tightened around my waist, pulling me securely against his chest. His strength was surprising. He told me not to be angry, that it was bad for my liver. Once we were inside his car, he calmly opened his bag and took out a small vial of herbal drops, offering it to me. He said it would help calm my system. I shook a few drops onto my tongue and swallowed them down with a sip of water from the thermos he offered. I told him I just couldn't stand it, that they could insult me all they wanted, but not him. He just smiled, turned on the headlights, and started the car. I asked him how he could be so calm, how he could just smile when people were being so blatantly disrespectful. He said that a moment of anger was easy, but the consequences were complicated. He could have gotten into a fight with Trevor, but then how would that affect my career and my relationships at work? Suddenly, my anger felt childish and short-sighted. Whether it was the herbal remedy or his logic, the rage had completely dissipated. The hybrid hummed quietly as we drove toward my apartment. My head had cleared, and I was beginning to feel foolish, like a kid who starts a playground fight and needs a parent to come clean up the mess. My carefully cultivated image of a cool, intellectual professional was in tatters. I mumbled an apology, trying to explain that I wasn't usually so volatile, that I was actually pretty easy to get along with. He assured me he knew, and that tonight was just an impulsive moment. He told me not to let them get to me. I marveled at his composure. He pulled into a parking spot in the quiet corner of my complex. He said he'd heard words like that his whole life. If he got angry every time, he'd be perpetually furious. He explained that holistic medicine wasn't perfect, that its flaws were as prominent as its strengths, and that criticism was necessary for it to evolve. His life's work was to refine it, to make it better, not to waste his short life bickering with ignorant people. "Sweetheart," he said, "there's too much real work to do to get caught up in pointless fights." After a previous misunderstanding had been cleared up, he'd taken to calling me sweetheart in private. It was usually fine, playful even. But hearing it now, in this moment of serious reflection, was utterly disarming. Felt like a foul. Why was he being so endearing when I wasn't supposed to be thinking about that? I looked at him with something akin to reverence. He wasn't a god, just a man of flesh and blood, but one who dedicated his life to alleviating the suffering of others. My heart swelled with a single triumphant thought. This incredible man was mine. Then he added, however, that seeing his fiery little protector leap to his defense did make him feel incredibly happy. The self-congratulatory monologue in my head screeched to a halt. He leaned across the console, his long arm bracing against the back of my seat, trapping me in the small space. It was that familiar, commanding energy I'd seen glimpses of before. He tilted my chin up with his fingers, his intention clear. Wait, what was happening? Was this happening? I wasn't ready. My mind raced. Was this a first base, second base situation? In his car? Was it big enough? Was it private enough? More importantly, did we have supplies? My heart hammered as I squeezed my eyes shut, a jumble of panicked thoughts and anticipation. I felt his breath, warm and close, and then the soft press of his lips. He kissed me gently on my eyelid. "It's midnight," he said softly. "Too late. You should go up." The next day, I learned that a video of my heroic tirade had been circulated through several company group chats, even reaching upper management. Daniel asked over the phone if I'd been reprimanded. I told him no one had said a word. They just responded with pictures of their pets. He was confused, asking why they would send pet photos. I mumbled that they probably didn't care about my drama and just wanted to share pictures of their dogs. I told him I wasn't upset, but I felt a strange urge to cry. Though we were now seen as the office's model couple, our dynamic hadn't changed. The end-of-year rush meant we saw each other even less. When we did, our interactions were proper, limited to holding hands. Other than the time he'd held my waist to stop me from fighting, there had been no other physical closeness. One evening, after 2 straight days of overtime, I was exhausted. We had dinner, and I slumped in his car afterwards, rubbing my stiff neck. Daniel, however, seemed to be in high spirits. He drove me straight to his place, and as soon as we were inside, he took my coat and tossed me onto his bed, instructing me to take off my sweater. My mind went blank. Tonight? Now? But I was so tired. Still, I wouldn't refuse him. I quickly pulled off my sweater, leaving me in my button-down, which I unbuttoned twice for good measure. He turned me over onto my stomach and pulled my collar down. Wait, were my clothes staying on? Was this some kind of new? He pressed down on me, his voice deep. "You said your neck was bothering you the other day. I thought I'd work on it for you." Ow. He remarked on how tense I was, a sign of a sedentary lifestyle. I begged him to be gentler. He asked if that pressure was better. No. I hugged a pillow, tears welling in my eyes. Well, at least we'd progressed to the neck. The rest of me couldn't be that far behind, I reasoned. The next time he picked me up, it was under less pleasant circumstances. I had just finished another late night at work and was rushing out, excited for our weekly pizza night. But my ex-boyfriend, Kevin, was waiting for me, ambushing me from the shadows by the building entrance. He reeked of alcohol, his eyes red and frantic. He grabbed my arm, launching into a tearful, drunken confession. He regretted breaking up. He missed me. He realized that our intellectual connection was more important than the purely physical relationships he'd pursued since. I noted that, for someone supposedly blackout drunk, his speech was remarkably coherent and his choice of hiding spot was quite strategic. Just then, Daniel's hybrid pulled up to the curb. He got out and asked what was going on. I explained it was just my ex. Seeing the look on Daniel's face, I tried to de-escalate, saying Kevin was just drunk and we should leave him. But Kevin wouldn't let go. He sneered at Daniel's car, then looked Daniel up and down with disdain, commenting on his slender build and asking if this was really the best I could do. Kevin had been a gym devotee since college, his pride and joy a V-shaped torso that strained the seams of his t-shirts. I silently wished he would leave me and my preference for men whose main form of exercise was badminton with their mothers in the park alone. He continued to harass me, using his intoxication as an excuse for his belligerence. Daniel stepped between us, pushing me gently behind him. He looked at Kevin and asked calmly if he was drunk. Kevin slurred a challenge in a thick Midwestern accent. 5 seconds later, a sharp cry echoed in front of the office building, heard by the few lingering employees. No one was hurt. Daniel had simply gripped Kevin's shoulder and applied a sharp, precise pressure along his shoulder blade. It was a technique for sobering someone up. Did I forget to mention? The last time I was at Daniel's place, I saw a glass on a shelf with a single acupuncture needle embedded in its side. When I asked about the strange art piece, he explained it was from his university days, a memento of his personal best for needle rotation speed and control. He humbly insisted it was more about technique than pure finger strength. Technique. In the car, he demonstrated on my back, his fingers tracing lines. He explained that these were acupressure points that could help the body process alcohol more efficiently. I sat there, rubbing my own neck, not daring to say a word. It was probably best to just stick to a quiet, peaceful relationship. As the holidays approached, my parents tentatively asked if I planned on bringing my boyfriend over. I realized it was time for him to meet them. It seemed like the natural next step. Even for two men, their old-fashioned sensibilities required a certain progression, a series of rituals that marked the official start of a life together. Daniel agreed, mentioning his own parents had the same idea. We were at Trader Joe's, doing a final pre-holiday grocery run. The store was a chaotic sea of people and shopping carts. I was a nervous wreck, chattering nonstop to cover my anxiety, while Daniel followed silently behind, occasionally adding something to our cart. I worried about what to get his parents, knowing they were academics and would appreciate something thoughtful over something expensive. He assured me they were easygoing and a simple fruit basket would be fine. The store's overhead speaker played a continuous loop, reminding shoppers to keep an eye on their children and belongings in the holiday rush. Mid-sentence, I realized Daniel was no longer behind me. I scanned the crowded aisle, a flicker of panic rising, until a hand closed around my arm. I jumped, then relaxed. I told him I thought I'd lost him in the crowd. He looked at me, his expression unreadable, and said not to worry. He would always keep a close eye on me. Took me a full 5 minutes to understand the double meaning behind his words. The holidays passed in a blur of family obligations. When the festive chaos finally subsided, Daniel came to my parents' house for a formal visit. They had cleaned the house from top to bottom and laid out an impressive spread of snacks. They greeted him at the door like a long-lost son. I sat beside him on the couch, stealing glances at him. It had only been a week, but after the intensity of the holidays, it felt like an eternity. He looked up and our eyes met. We both froze for a second, then broke into a simultaneous, knowing smile. In that instant, I felt a profound sense of peace, a feeling that this was all I would ever need in life. But of course, my parents couldn't just let a perfect moment be. They immediately launched into a detailed consultation about my father's bad breath, stained teeth, and constipation. I tried to intervene, reminding my mom that it was a holiday, that Daniel was a guest, not a doctor on call. She waved my hand away, telling me not to interrupt. Then she remembered they were low on groceries and sent me to the store. When I returned, my father was sitting on the couch while my mother, wearing her reading glasses, interrogated a shell-shocked Daniel, taking copious notes. She recounted my father's thunderous snoring, the yellow stains on his pillowcases, and the alarming rate of his hair loss. She then pivoted to her own fears, worrying that I would inherit all these terrible traits. My dad, insulted, shot back that she should mention her own high blood pressure, a far more hairy condition. He lamented that I never exercised and predicted that whoever ended up with me would have their work cut out for them in my old age. I dropped the grocery bags and buried my face in my hands. This was my father. This was my mother. Why were they discussing this now? This was about my future happiness. Couldn't they at least pretend to be normal? The visit, which had started so promisingly, had veered into a ditch. No amount of reassurance from Daniel that he wouldn't be scared off could erase the deep psychological scar. When it was my turn to visit his family, my insecurity intensified. Their home radiated intellectual elegance. The moment I stepped inside, I was met with tasteful mid-century modern furniture, a large aquarium, a built-in library of leather-bound books, and abstract art on the walls. Daniel's parents, his father a renowned holistic practitioner, his mother a university professor, were the epitome of cultured grace. In their presence, I felt like a country bumpkin, utterly out of my depth. His father, Robert, had an imposing presence. He greeted me with a curt nod and barely spoke another word, soon retreating to his study. I panicked, wondering what I had done to offend him. Daniel's mother, Catherine, was warm and reassuring. She explained that her husband was just a quiet man and told me not to take it personally. While she was in the kitchen, Daniel whispered that his father actually liked me. I asked how he could possibly know that. He told me to watch. His dad kept sneaking glances at me. I looked over at the study, and sure enough, Robert quickly averted his gaze back to the papers on his desk, clearing his throat. It was strangely endearing. A famous doctor with a secret awkward streak. At dinner, Robert remained silent, a silent observer to our cheerful conversation. But now that Daniel had pointed it out, I noticed he often looked like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find an opening. When I happened to mention that my own father had been stationed in the Midwest during his military service, Robert's eyes lit up. This was his chance. He declared that the Midwest was a fine place, and with a broad, happy grin, his voice shifted into a thick, unadulterated Midwestern accent as he said that made them practically neighbors. Catherine gently placed a piece of chicken on his plate and told him to eat his dinner, reminding him that no one would think he was a mute if he kept quiet. He glanced at her, then sullenly returned to his food. Daniel, the ungrateful son, simply took a calm sip of his soup. Catherine turned back to me, her smile serene, and urged me to eat more. But I had heard it all. So it wasn't that he was aloof, it was that he was under a gag order. Over the next few minutes, I watched as Robert made several more attempts to join the conversation, each one swiftly and mercilessly shut down by his wife until he finally snapped. He slammed his hand on the table, demanding to know what was so wrong with being from the Midwest, why she was so ashamed of his roots that he couldn't even speak to his son's partner. Catherine just looked at him calmly and asked what it was he wanted to say. He deflated instantly, muttering that he didn't want to say anything, and then meekly urged me to have some more rice. Daniel later explained the backstory. Robert, the distinguished doctor, had grown up on a farm in Iowa. He was a brilliant man, but he had two habits he could never shake. He was an incurable chatterbox, and when he got excited, his accent came roaring back. Fearing he would overwhelm me with endless stories and scare me away forever, Catherine had ordered him to play the part of the strong, silent sage. At the end of the evening, Daniel walked me to the edge of my neighborhood. I felt a familiar melancholy descend. The thought of not seeing him for several days left a hollow feeling in my chest. We reached the entrance to my complex. I told him I was leaving. He offered to call me a car. I said I would get one myself and he should go home before he got cold. Neither of us moved. He suggested a walk through the nearby park. The park was blanketed in snow, ice glittering on the tree branches. Families with children were everywhere, their laughter echoing in the cold air. I crunched my way through the pristine snow, then turned to him, demanding to know why he hadn't just told his parents I didn't care about where someone was from. He shrugged, saying it was their dynamic, decades of playful bickering. He said his mom found plenty of things to complain about with his dad. His love of garlic, the way he squeezed the toothpaste from the middle, his general messiness. But, he added, she was fiercely protective. He recounted a story from his childhood when someone had called his father a hick, and his mother, a literature professor, had verbally eviscerated the person for half an hour without repeating a single insult or using a single curse word. I applauded the image of Catherine as a warrior poet. He admitted he'd only heard the story secondhand, but then he looked at me and said that watching me at the karaoke bar, he imagined it was exactly the same. My next words caught in my throat. He explained that in a relationship, it's not about finding someone without flaws, it's about a willingness to accept them. Life is about two people shaping each other over time until they fit. Then he coughed, his ears turning a little pink. Sweetheart, he said, I have a lot of flaws too, a lot of difficult habits, but would you be willing to move in with me? My mother was incredulous. He asked you to move in and you said no? I tried to explain that it felt too sudden, that agreeing to live with someone so casually seemed irresponsible. And besides, I'd always lived at home. I didn't want her to feel abandoned. The real reason, of course, was that at that exact moment in the park, a kid who had been trailing us popped out from behind a tree and yelled, "Oh, sweetheart, will you move in with me?" before running off, laughing. The romantic atmosphere was shattered. My explanation trailed off as I saw the look on my mother's face. She clutched her chest, calling for my father to support her, then pointed a trembling finger at me, lamenting that she had raised an ungrateful, dependent man-child who would surely die alone. The next morning, I and 2 large suitcases found ourselves on the cold side of a locked front door. A mix of indignation and excitement coursed through me as I hailed a cab and gave the driver Daniel's address. He was already waiting for me at the entrance. He said my mother had called him with a full report. He took one of my bags, relaying her instructions that he was to regulate my chaotic lifestyle to prevent me from dying an early death from burnout. I mumbled that my main concern was premature balding. He replied that getting to bed early would help with that. He glanced at me with a meaningful look and promised he could cure my chronic night owl habits. I thought he was joking. He set me up in the spare bedroom. We bought some essentials, and then we both settled into our own work as the holidays came to an end. That evening, he made a simple dinner of soup and salad, which I devoured. We washed the dishes together, went for a short walk, and everything felt surreally perfect. Until 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock sharp, he mercilessly pulled me away from my laptop, disconnected the Wi-Fi, and ordered me to go get ready for bed. Disconnecting the Wi-Fi. The man was a monster. I complied, but I still had my phone's data plan. As I lay in bed, the bedside lamp on, scrolling through my phone, the door clicked open. Daniel stood there, looking down at me with an unimpressed expression. He asked what the point of going to bed early was if I was just going to stare at a screen. Caught red-handed, I quickly put the phone away, promising to sleep, explaining it was hard to change my internal clock. He said it would never change if I didn't start. He told me to sleep and that he would watch me. I thought I must have misheard. But he pulled a chair from the desk, positioned it facing the bed, turned the lamp toward himself, and opened a medical text on his lap. He said he would leave once I was asleep. He was literally going to watch me sleep. It was impossible to sleep under that kind of pressure. I surrendered my phone and practically begged him to leave. Living with him felt like a digital detox. No phones at the dinner table, no phones before bed, and no time for them at work. Even spending too long in the bathroom would earn me a about hemorrhoids. For a chronic phone addict, it was a catastrophe. It wasn't that he was a Luddite. He used his phone for practical things. He just didn't believe in wasting hours on mindless entertainment. And I, wanting to make a good impression, found myself weaning off my own addiction. I felt I was making a great sacrifice for love, and I desperately wanted him to notice and reward me with affection. The truth is, living together is a challenge for any two people from different backgrounds. Daniel's lifestyle was disciplined to the point of being rigid. It was, frankly, an old man's routine. To be with him, I had to tame my own chaotic energy and adapt to his rhythm. I was woken at 7 every morning to practice Tai Chi in the park. I'd come home from work exhausted, only to find it was already time for bed. Weekends were spent either visiting our parents or doing deep cleaning. We rarely ate out, as Daniel insisted home-cooked meals were healthier. There were no movies, no spontaneous trips. When he was home, he was often so quiet I'd forget he was there, lost in his study with his books. This wasn't for a week or a month. This was forever. Sometimes I felt like I was living in a period drama. On Valentine's Day, a day when the city was overflowing with roses, I stayed home from work and prepared an elaborate candlelit dinner. Daniel got home after midnight, delayed by a consultation with a colleague, and his first words to me were to ask why I was still awake. I'm not complaining. The dinner wasn't important, and his work came first. It was just a shame that the ring I had secretly bought remained in my pocket. I had planned to propose that night, but the truly unbearable part was that, despite sharing a home, we had entered a completely passionless, sexless phase, like a couple married for 50 years. I knew it was partly my own fault for telling him I had issues with intimacy. I had them, yes, but they were psychological. And now, to hell with psychology, I just wanted to climb into his bed and claim him. I was starting to feel insecure. I couldn't tell if he even desired me. He often told me my energy was low and would insist on giving me acupuncture treatments. The first time, I imagined a scene from a romance novel. My hesitant disrobing, his fingers tracing the points on my skin, the air crackling with unspoken tension. The reality was me lying on the bed like a log while he efficiently and clinically inserted the needles, then covered me with a blanket. He looked at me with the same detached focus he used on the bronze acupuncture dummy in his office. During lunch one day, I saw a junior or furtively watching a movie on her laptop, hidden in a corner. The reflection in the window behind her gave her away. I stood over her until she looked up, nearly dropping her computer in fright. I asked what she was watching. Blushing, she admitted it was an infamous art house film known for its explicit content. I held out a USB drive and, in my coldest real voice, told her to make me a copy. That Friday night, I padded barefoot into the master bedroom, my laptop in hand. Daniel was in bed, reading. He frowned when he saw my bare feet and patted the space beside him, telling me to get under the covers. I loved the feel of the cool hardwood, a habit he detested. I slid into the warm bed next to him and suggested we watch a movie instead of reading. To my surprise, he agreed, closing his book and turning off the lights. I positioned the laptop between us. The film's score was heavy and atmospheric, wrapping us in the dark. The movie was a decadent mix of gothic castles, forbidden love, and simmering violence. The air between us grew thick with unspoken feelings. I could hear the change in his breathing, so close to my own. I slowly unbuttoned his pajama shirt, my hand tracing the firm lines of his stomach. He caught my hand, stopping me. I pushed the laptop away and climbed onto his lap, trying to kiss him. The room was warm, but I was trembling, either from the cold of leaving the blankets or from sheer nerves. Suddenly, he flipped us over, pinning me beneath him and pulling the comforter over both of us. Our bodies were pressed together, a furnace of shared heat. We kissed deeply, a tangle of limbs and rising desire. His hand slid inside my pajama pants, and I froze, a mix of panic and shame. His hand, so skilled and precise in his work, was now exploring me, and though he was likely as inexperienced as I was, the thought of his focused, clinical gaze now turned to this act was almost too much. It didn't take long for me to completely unravel. Then, just as abruptly, he stopped. He pulled away and sat up. I sat up too, confused, asking what was wrong. He ran a hand through his hair, his voice still rough with passion. He said he thought things were moving too fast, that maybe we should wait. I couldn't understand. I told him I was ready, so what was his hesitation? Was he having second thoughts? He explained that he wanted me to be absolutely sure about building a life with him. I stared at him, dumbfounded. I reminded him that I had already moved in. He acknowledged that, but said that living with him had surely shown me how boring he really was. He confessed his fear that one day I would get tired of him and leave. He wanted to give me an out, a chance to change my mind after a few months of a trial period. I started to laugh, a bitter, incredulous sound. I accused him of planning our breakup from the moment he asked me to move in. He just looked at me with that patient, exasperated expression, as if to say, "See, we're already fighting." I called him a neurotic idiot and told him I didn't want to talk to him. I jumped out of bed to storm out, and he had the nerve to remind me to put on my slippers. That was the last straw. I spun around, marched back to the bed, and launched myself at him. I told him he was a monster, a fiend, and that I would never let him break up with me. I shouted that if he wanted me to leave, he would have to step over my dead body. He stared at me, completely stunned. After a long moment, he tentatively poked my side. "Sweetheart?" I wriggled away, telling him not to call me that and to leave me alone because I was still angry. He said okay and that he would go sleep on the couch in the study. "You dare?" I seethed, sitting bolt upright. "You're sleeping right here." He agreed, but then he put on his slippers and started walking out of the room. I called after him, and he said he was just going to the bathroom. I collapsed back onto the bed, fuming. I must have fallen asleep, because the next thing I knew it was morning, and I was wrapped around him like an octopus. He was already awake, watching me. I stared back, speechless. "Good morning," he said, and then leaned in and gave me a chaste kiss on the forehead before getting up to start his day. We pretended nothing had happened. We went to his parents' house for our usual weekend visit, but there was a tension between us that his mother immediately noticed. In the kitchen, she quietly asked if we had been fighting. I forced a smile and said we were fine. She didn't believe me, insisting that Daniel must have done something to upset me. I wanted to tell her everything, but I could hardly explain that our sex life was the source of our disagreement. She sighed, shaking her head as she arranged food on a platter. She said Daniel's personality was too old-fashioned, too serious, that she had always worried he would end up alone. I felt a small spark of indignation on his behalf and defended him, saying his mature, steady nature was a good thing. She called me a good kid. She explained that his upbringing had been difficult. She and her husband had been so focused on his academic success, pushing him relentlessly, that they had neglected his emotional life. By the time they realized their mistake, he had become withdrawn, unwilling to share his feelings. She told me that when he was a teenager, he had struggled terribly with the realization that he was attracted to men, with no one to confide in. He had poured all his anxiety into his studies, becoming even more isolated. When she had later pressured him to get married, he finally told her the truth, asking her to give up the idea so he wouldn't ruin some poor girl's life. She said that while she was angry at first, she eventually understood that he was right. She told him that as long as he could build a happy life for himself, she would support him. Just then, Daniel walked in, asking what we were talking about. Catherine said she was just telling me his sob story, hoping to earn him some pity for the future. He thanked her dryly and carried the finished dish out of the kitchen. As the door swung shut, Catherine turned to me, her expression serious. "See? That attitude. Isn't it infuriating?" In that moment, I understood everything. I told her that she didn't need to worry, that while we had our small disagreements, we were absolutely in it for the long haul. Her eyes softened. She wiped her hands on her apron and patted my head, complaining about her stubborn son and wondering when she would get to plan a celebration and officially call me her son-in-law. After dinner, Catherine shooed us out of the house, forbidding Daniel from visiting every single weekend and instructing him to learn how other young people spend their time. The next day, my own mother, inspired by this story, did the same, complaining that she was tired of cooking for us every Sunday. Daniel looked at me, utterly perplexed. I shrugged. So, he asked, how are young people supposed to spend their weekends? Theater or bed, I said. You pick one. He chose the boring detective play. I had seen through him. I started researching interesting local events, and Catherine would occasionally send us tickets to concerts and gallery openings. I had worried there would be a cultural gap between us, but I soon discovered it was less about age and more about the fact that I was, next to him, a complete ignoramus. He could play the piano, he practiced calligraphy, he could explain the origins of ancient characters, and he could even compose poetry using the names of medicinal herbs. Who was I to ever think this man was boring? He tried to downplay it, saying he'd just been in a poetry club in college, but I told him to stop. I was a man of letters who felt illiterate next to him. I sulked under the covers of his big bed. My bed now, as I'd moved all my things into the master bedroom. We moved through the blossoming spring together. Sharing a bed, a home, a life with him made even the 6 a.m. wake-up calls feel less like a chore. Just holding each other at night, even without sex, was enough. But I could sense his restraint was wearing thin. Our parents had met and were already discussing a celebration for the fall. We couldn't legally marry, but a ceremony with our closest friends and family felt right. a formal declaration of our commitment to each other. Over a long weekend in May, I attended a college friend's wedding and the reunion that followed. Daniel couldn't make it. I wasn't surprised to see my ex, Kevin, there. He had been friendly with many of my classmates. I kept my distance, and when someone brought up our past relationship, I made it clear that I was with someone new. He smiled and agreed it was all in the past. By the end of the night, most people were drunk. I stood up, the room spinning, and promptly sat back down. I pulled out my phone and sent a single, clear text to Daniel. Empire Hotel, room 212. Drunk. Come get me. I hit send, then passed out on the table. In a hazy fog, I felt myself being moved. Something felt wrong, but I was too disoriented to resist. When I opened my eyes again, it was daylight. It took me a moment to recognize my own bedroom. Daniel was gone, but I could hear noises from the kitchen. I stumbled out to find his mother, Catherine, at the stove. My voice was a raw croak. She turned, telling me to sit down while she finished making something to help with the hangover. After a shower and a cup of a strange-tasting herbal brew, I felt human again. I asked her what she was doing here and where Daniel was. Just as she was about to answer, the front door opened and Daniel walked in, followed by his father. Robert was in a state of high excitement, ranting in his thick accent about some coward getting what he deserved. He caught his wife's eye and tempered his language. Daniel sat down opposite us, looking exhausted. Catherine asked if he was hurt. Robert proudly declared that was impossible. Catherine clarified that she was asking about the other person. Daniel shook his head, saying it was just a few bruises, and that he'd paid $1,000 to settle it privately. He then told his parents they should go home and rest, but they insisted on taking the subway. Left alone, I frantically checked the class group chat. A few coherent friends filled me in. In the drunken chaos, Kevin had offered to take me home. No one thought anything of it. Half an hour later, a very handsome, very angry man had shown up demanding to know where I was. I dropped my phone and collapsed onto the couch. Daniel had a location tracker on my phone. He must have followed it, found me with Kevin, and a fight had ensued. I quickly checked my body for any signs of infidelity and found none. It was a small relief. But his parents, what must they think of me now? When Daniel returned, I rushed to him, launching into a sincere, fumbling apology. He calmly told me it wasn't my fault, but his tone suggested otherwise. I swore off alcohol forever. He just patted the back of my head and told me to come rest with him. I went into the bedroom to prepare the bed. He followed me in and, with a soft click, locked the door. I asked why he was locking it. Then he said a line that sounded so foreign coming from his mouth. It was almost comical. To have my way with you. He pushed me onto the bed, pinning me down. Our eyes met, my heart pounding. He leaned in and whispered, "I'm not waiting anymore. And then, tonight, you become mine." He continued, his voice low, "Scream all you want. No one will save you." He paused, then added, "If you're good, I might be gentle." He turned his head, and I could see the tips of his ears were bright red. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I burst out laughing, shoving him off me and burying my face in the pillows, my body shaking with mirth. He looked completely defeated, even a little hurt, and mumbled that we should just forget it. No, I said, scrambling to hold on to him. I pulled him close, reached into the nightstand drawer and held up a box. "See? These will expire if we don't use them." He looked at me suspiciously. I told him the neighborhood health clinic was giving them out for free. He peered closer at the box. "They're giving out lube too?" There was no time to argue. I pushed him back down, kissing his throat. He hesitated for a second, then abandoned his ridiculous bad boy persona and responded with a fierce, passionate energy that matched my own. When we finally got to the main event, his confidence wavered again. He kept asking if it hurt. It did, but I wasn't about to stop now. I gasped that it didn't. "Are you sure?" he asked. "You're making noises." I told him I was allowed to make noises. "Maybe we should," he started. I was about to lose my mind. I demanded to know if he was a man or not, if he could do this or not. A final piece of advice: never, ever question a man's ability in this particular arena, no matter how gentle he seems. The lesson will be a painful one. Daniel sat at the desk, a stack of invitations in front of him, solemnly studying a calendar. He noted that June 1st was a Saturday and was marked as an auspicious day for weddings. I asked why on earth we would get married on Children's Day. He suggested the 4th of July or Labor Day. I vetoed the patriotic holidays. He offered September 10th, but a day for teachers seemed irrelevant. Frustrated, my sore back spasming, I collapsed back onto the chaise lounge and reminded him we'd already agreed on the long weekend in October. He glanced at my stomach with an expression of profound concern. I was horrified. "Daniel, I'm not pregnant. Why are you acting like this is a shotgun wedding?" "Because I'm in a hurry," he said, putting down his pen and looking at me seriously. "I have to take responsibility for you." I melted, happily resigning myself to being pampered. His computer was in the study, and he let me use it freely. After finishing an episode of a show, I closed the browser and noticed a folder on his desktop labeled Research Materials for Dr. D. Redheart. I had a feeling I knew what this was. I clicked it open. A long list of text files appeared. I called out to him. He looked up from his guest list. I asked him to tell me about a file titled, "Daddy, Please Be Gentle." The look on his face was a masterful symphony of confusion, shock, embarrassment, and guilt. He stammered that a girl from accounting had sent it to him. I scrolled down the list. Taming the CEO, the Emperor's Harem, the Dragon, the Tentacles, and the Prince. Training the National Beauty. My 100 Days as a Porn Star. I asked if he'd actually read all of them. He looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Feeling a pang of pity, I got up, walked over, and gave him a hug. I told him his reading list was incomplete and that next time we could watch something together. We held our ceremony on Children's Day after all. It was a small affair, just a private room at a nice restaurant with 2 tables of our closest friends and family. Both of us had been out for years. We knew who our real supporters were. A friend who worked as a radio DJ acted as our MC. We exchanged the rings I had bought months ago, and we wore custom-tailored suits. It was simple, but both sets of our parents shed quiet tears. After the party, while I was still swimming in a sea of sentimentality, my father and his father cheerfully went off on a fishing trip. My mother and his mother, clad in stylish heels, went shopping. I stood on the sidewalk outside the restaurant, holding the last party popper, feeling a little lost. Daniel came up behind me, resting his chin on my shoulder. In a mock-serious voice, he said, "Well now, whose sweetheart is this, all alone in the world? Looks like he'll have to come home with me." I twisted around, pulled the string on the popper, and threw my arms around his neck as a shower of tiny red hearts rained down on us. "Yours," I said, laughing. "All yours from now on." The tiny hearts scattered around us, caught by the breeze and carried away. I knew I would never forget that moment, because Daniel then proceeded to give me a stern lecture on public littering and made me spend the next 20 minutes helping him pick up every single one of those heart-shaped pieces of paper.